if this summer can be called classic.
And from Caleb, we've got an interesting style of Reanimator deck here. He's got Goryo's Vengeance and Shallow Grave, 4 Gristlebrand to bring back, a few ways to discard those in Careful Study, and then some discard spells that can be used to clear the way, or he can use them on himself to get that Gristlebrand in the graveyard. Then we also see 1 copy in his deck of Tendrils of Agony, and a sort of alternate win for him is getting this Gristlebrand into play, casting these rituals that let him do it faster, and then winning that turn with Tendrils. And we see that they're already getting started. Ben with a fetch land and a Lotus Petal.
Now, this card, or this deck, Tin Fins, uses a really awesome card, Children of Corliss. A 1 white 1/1, sacrifice it, gain life equal to the life you've lost this turn. In combination with Gristlebrand, that is what we call sick.
Yeah, so you can pay, 14 life, draw 14 cards, play Children of Corliss, sacrifice it, gain that 14 life right back, do the whole thing again. We see a Thoughtseize from Caleb, revealing a hand of Gristlebrand, Force of Will, Show and Tell, a Mountain, and what looks like it might be, is that a promo Sneak Attack?
Yes,
I believe that's a
that
promo
is.
Sneak Attack. Yep, there we see it. So Show and Tell, Force of Will, Mountain, Sneak Attack, and Gristlebrand.
That is a Judge Foil Sneak Attack, says our director Shoebox. Now, one of the things, all of the promos that we're seeing, it is just amazing. We already have I believe, over 14,000 or more cards that are legal in this format. Now, on top of that, all of the crazy alternate arts. If you want to personalize a deck, you can sure do it in Legacy. Turn 1, turn 2, nothing from Ben Porter, but more land.
We see a Brainstorm from Caleb, putting a couple cards back, and a land. So that looks like it was a main phase Brainstorm. We've been seeing a lot of those this weekend. A real nice time to cast Brainstorm, actually, even though it's an instant. Casting it on your main phase allows you to potentially draw into that fetch land that allows you to shuffle the cards you put back away. We see a draw from Ben, and looks like he's just passing the turn back. You're going to see Caleb use his fetch land at the end of turn.
Now, one of the reasons why it can be valuable to do that main phase Brainstorm, finding the fetch land if you didn't already have it, that's always great, getting you that land drop. But sometimes you just want to be able to do things now, and Legacy has enough powerful cards that doing it now, you might just actually win in some of these decks. You can be Brainstorm, oh wow, I've got the combo, let's go.
Yep, definitely. I have a nice story about playing Storm in one of these Legacy events where my opponent was complaining about playing against Storm opponents. I played a land, cast Brainstorm, and then, reluctantly said, Storm is won. And won on that turn.
Caleb passes back to Ben Porter. Ben Porter pondering. 3-Moon Ponder there. Looks like Emrakul land.
And he does have a Show and Tell, and a couple other cards in hand.
Lotus Petal land Emrakul. He puts the order first. Oh, he keeps rearranging it, so it looks like he didn't hide it, though. That top card, Polluted Delta, that is what he got with the Ponder. Back to Caleb. Caleb just untaps, draws.
I think that may have been an Emrakul that Caleb drew. Not 100% sure, only saw a little bit of it, but Ben leaving the Emrakul near the top of his deck. He does have a Show and Tell in hand, and a Force of Will, and a blue card to pitch to it. So possibly setting something up here. Although, depending on what he has put Caleb on playing, he may not want to fire off that Show and Tell for fear of Caleb dropping something pretty scary of his own.
Now, no mana here to actually do the sneak attack and cast and activate it to make the Emrakul hit play. He's 1 shy of that. I don't believe that there's a red source in his hand. If there is, then he can do it, but I think all of his mana are in play.
Yeah, I think you're right about that, and we see the fetch land activated. We are going to see a show and tell.
Show and tell, though. He's going to go for that. The let's see what you got side. Now, Caleb, unless Ben Porter has been scouting out Caleb, he might not know that Caleb is also... Oh, there we go. Wow, that is the nice sneaky way to get there. Puts the the sneak attack into play, then activates the sneak attack off of the Lotus Petal. Caleb with nothing from the show and tell, and did he forget to put his trigger on for Annihilate?
It looks like Caleb's drawn a card and still has all of his lands, so that may have happened.
I think that Ben Porter may have forgotten to Annihilate, which, according to the current rules, that sticks.
Okay, well that definitely changes things a lot. We'll see what Caleb can do with those 4 lands.
If you would like to check out something interesting on this, read Toby Elliott's blog. Toby Elliott, probably one of the major sources of Magic rule think these days. Check it out, and Gristlebrand will take care of it, though.
All right, so not even needing that Annihilate 6.
Now, I was going to say, if Ben Porter has not seen what Caleb is playing, he might not realize that Caleb is also a deck that's going to just combo off, and that a card like Show and Tell is more dangerous than he may realize.
Yeah, he really didn't see much from Caleb that game. He did see blue-black lands, brainstorm and discard spells, and not much else. I wouldn't fault him for thinking Caleb is some kind of combo, but also wouldn't fault him for thinking that it could be, something like Storm, as opposed to he is much more of a Reanimator deck, even with that one Tendrils of Agony in his deck.
I mean, and to be fair, Caleb's deck is a Storm deck. It will kill with Tendrils, right? But one of the things that Caleb is doing, he's not a Storm deck like Ant. He's not a Storm deck like many of the other, various kinds of, like, say, Doomsday or any of that. He bases his Storm off of using Gristlebrand. So I don't know if Ben Porter, how aware he is of what Caleb is playing or not, but he might put Caleb on Reanimator. He might put Caleb on Ant. He might put Caleb on a number of things, but it's a question of what he thinks Caleb is when it comes to the sideboarding.
Yeah, and where some Storm decks choose to... wait for this announcement. Where some Storm decks choose to lean on Past in Flames or Ad Nauseam to really give them the gas they need to go off, Caleb is leaning on Gristlebrand, and he's getting that into play using Reanimate, Shallow Grave, and Goryo's Vengeance. What this allows Caleb to do, he's playing a lot of the same pieces as the Storm deck, but Caleb also has a draw where he just goes land, Careful Study, Lotus Petal, Reanimate my Gristlebrand. And then he has all these cards. He still has, the same type of defenses that a Storm deck or a Reanimator plays, but he can just attack for 7 lifelinking damage.
Caleb told me that he had an 80% turn 1 kill rate. Now, I understand he was joking. He had a little twinkle in his eye when he said it, but I do hope to see a turn 1 kill from Caleb, because I think that would be fun.
Yeah, and it's definitely possible with the Dark Rituals and the Lotus Petals. Really all Caleb needs is that Gristlebrand to get in play and for him to have a decent amount of life. Every Lotus Petal he draws is going to allow him to play a Children of Corliss. Every Children of Corliss is going to draw probably 14 more cards, and it's not going to be long before he has enough spells for a lethal Tendrils of Agony.
I've actually never seen this deck played out. I've only read or heard it described, so I'm curious to watch it in action.
Yeah, and that game pretty much shut down by the sneak attack from Ben. We'll see if Caleb's deck functions a little better this game.
For those of you who are just joining us, I'm Adrian Sullivan here with Ben Hayes. You are watching the Star City Games Open Series. This is SCG Live in Cincinnati, Ohio. Caleb Durward, a rogue deck builder extraordinaire on the left, and Ben Porter on the right, a sneak and show player. So this is a dueling combos going at each other.
And from Caleb's sideboard, we have Blue Elemental Blast, Chain of Vapor, Deathmark, Pithing Needle, Surgical Extraction, Mindbreak Trap, and Duress. I think we're going to see the Duress come in. I think we may see those Surgicals come in, although I wouldn't count on it. Ben's deck is more of a deck that's going to keep its combo pieces in its hand until it really goes off. We could see the Pithing Needle come in to name Sneak Attack. It could also name Gristlebrand, although that might not be the best idea for Caleb as he has 4 of his own.
Ben Porter, if he knows to use it, has Leyline of the Void ×4 in the sideboard. And Leyline of the Void, an awesome card against Caleb's deck. And besides that, a little less focused on specifically Caleb's deck. 1 Pyroblast, 1 Red Elemental Blast, both of those very reasonable cards.
Yeah, so both players with a couple of decent sideboard options. We'll see what they choose to bring in. Those Leyline of the Void could really be important if Ben has chosen to bring them in, if he's put Caleb on being a deck that uses his graveyard. And we do actually see the Red Elemental Blast, I believe, from Ben in his hand, as well as an Emrakul, a Spell Pierce, and what looks like a Show and Tell. Caleb starts off with a Verdant Catacombs, a Lotus Petal, and he actually uses the Lotus Petal instead of the land to cast Brainstorm, probably wanting to keep that fetch land up to shuffle away whatever he's putting back here. So giving up a temporary resource for that sort of draw filtering that's provided by the combination of Brainstorm and that fetch land.
I can't fully see Caleb's deck or hand, but he is close to a turn 1 kill here, I think.
Yeah, I believe the front card in his hand is Shallow Grave. Not super familiar with the art on that, but I'm familiar with the art of every other card in his deck, and I don't recognize it. So process of elimination, I'm gonna bet it's Shallow Grave, and then we see Brainstorm, Spell Pierce, Show and Tell, Emrakul from Ben. And
as long as there's no Force of Will, I think this might be it. Oh, there is nothing that Ben can do. Cabal Therapy himself naming Gristlebrand? Is that what it's going to be?
He's targeting.
He's going to target himself.
I could, I could see that, and he does.
Gristlebrand.
Gristlebrand.
Ooh, Shallow Grave.
I think we're going to see that.
The last time I saw a Shallow Grave cast, I'm not going to lie, a Nicole Bolas was reanimated from the graveyard and attacked. That was probably 1998? Oh my god.
So, been a few months. And Shallow Grave making a comeback here. Ben Porter reading that. And
oh man, I'm wrong. I last saw that Shallow Grave cast in like 97, so it's been a while. You can see the card right there. It's basically what the Oracle text says. In comes Gristlebrand on turn 1, knock you to 20 or to 13, gain 7 life, be at 26. Gristlebrand now can be activated for 21 cards. I bet you that Caleb's going to draw 21 cards.
Yeah, as long he knows he doesn't know the path is clear, but he pretty much does. A counterspell would have been used on one of these earlier spells that Caleb cast. So as long as he hits a Children of Corliss and a Lotus Petal, or enough Lotus Petals and Rituals and a Lethal Tendrils, either one of those is going to allow him to continue going. In one case, probably end the game. In the other case, draw another 21 cards. So we'll see what those 21 are for Caleb. And I assume he has something to do with them. Just sorting them out, figuring out what his next play is.
And this is taking me back to Rome. Gristlebrand, it lets you do some absurd things, that's for sure.
Not quite a Nicol Bolas, but...
Not quite a Nicol Bolas. Yes, it only wins on turn 1 instead of mind twisting them on turn 1.
So we see...
Oh, boy.
Caleb with a giant stack of cards in hand. Oh, wow. And we're just going to see... Oh, okay. We're going to see the Gristlebrand sacrifice to flashback Cabal Therapy. This time it's targeting Ben. giving Caleb a little more information, confirming that the path is clear, which we suspected because those previous spells resolved. As you can see, Ben laying out his hand here. No way to interact with Caleb on this turn, so I would be surprised if the game didn't end on this turn.
And Caleb writing down some notes. He named Brainstorm, so we're going to see that Ice Age Brainstorm go to the graveyard. And I'm sure that the major note he wrote himself is that his opponent, Ben Porter, has access to Red Elemental Blast after sideboard.
Yep, you know, even if Caleb does have the kill here, which Caleb's putting a handful of cards down on the table, maybe moving to discard. I think Ben Porter is confirming that he is moving to discard, and we're going to see...
Oh, wow. Not a turn 1 kill.
Not a turn 1 kill, and...
Just a turn 1 wreck you really bad.
Yeah, I mean, a little iffy for Caleb. He dealt Ben 13... Or, sorry, he put Ben to 13, and got a bunch of cards. Is going to be able to sculpt a very good 7-card hand, but, you know, Ben has a Spell Pierce. Ben has some action, so we'll see if he can come back from this. And Caleb hands Ben a whole stack of cards to look through that he is discarding. We see some land, Entomb, a Gristlebrand, more land, Goryo's Vengeance, which Ben is going to take a second to read, a Gristlebrand, a Cabal Therapy, Bounty of Riches that did not quite come together for a Storm kill that turn. A little bit of an awkward situation for Caleb because he can't activate a Gristlebrand anymore this game unless a Gristlebrand connects. We may see that happen, but we'll see how it plays out. And Caleb with a second land.
Let's start out with Thoughtseize.
Fire off a Thoughtseize, go down to 3, and hoping Ben Porter hasn't drawn a Lightning Bolt here.
Ben fetches.
Probably going to go grab a Volcanic Island, or just a regular island. And we may see that Thoughtseize. I think it looks like Ben may have drawn a Misdirection. So we're going to see that Thoughtseize hit by a Spell Pierce. And Ben does have Misdirection, Emrakul, Show and Tell, Red Elemental Blast, and Scalding Tarn in hand. And
Ritual Thoughtseize.
Ooh.
What you got over there?
So, looks like Ben is maybe misdirecting that Thoughtseize.
Looks like it. Now Caleb still gets to choose. He doesn't have to reveal. I believe he looks.
Yeah, I think that is the wording of Thoughtseize, but he definitely has to discard a card.
Yes.
He has to choose one of the legal, you know, for lack of a better term, targets.
Oh, it is a reveal. It is a reveal.
Okay. So Ben will see Caleb's hand and see what Caleb has to throw away. Reveals for just a second. I didn't see that. Not sure Ben saw that either.
Gets rid of a Dark Ritual.
Or maybe is casting.
Oh, he's
a Dark
responding.
Ritual? Yeah.
He's responding to this Thoughtseize on himself.
Yeah, responding by casting Dark Ritual, using the mana from the first Dark Ritual, casting an Entomb, putting Emrakul in his graveyard, and if the last card in his hand is a Goryo's Vengeance or a Shallow Grave...
I think it is.
Yeah, I think we're going to see that Emrakul, yeah, Shallow Grave,
yep.
Another not quite Nicol Bolas, a little different, and...
Ben Porter, this deck is awesome.
Yeah, and it takes the game. One swing from Gristlebrand, one swing from Emrakul. Even though he wasn't able to Storm combo off, he was pretty easily able to get there the turn after with a couple of discard spells, Dark Rituals to accelerate him to many mana to do whatever he really wanted.
So, I asked earlier today, I asked Adam Prozac what he was playing today, and I said, "You're playing Storm, right?" And he said, "Yeah." And I had just spoken to Caleb Durward a few minutes earlier, and I said, "Like Caleb's?" And Adam said, "Well, I'm not crazy." Crazy like a fox, Caleb Durward there.
Yeah, two very different approaches to Storm. Both more or less planning to end on that 10 Rules of Agony if things go as planned, but you know, Caleb, as we saw there, with a pretty nice backup plan of drawing 21 and attacking with a couple of giant monsters. And don't think we're going to see any sideboard changes, really. We may from Ben, now that he, based on the fact that he was reading various cards of Caleb's and seemed a little surprised. Not sure he put Caleb on tin fins, so we may see him change his sideboard around. And if he didn't have those Leyline of the Voids in, we didn't see them, so we're not sure, but if he didn't have those in, I imagine they will be coming in.
So for those of you who are just joining us, you just missed a turn 2 kill from Caleb Durward, and really awesome. He almost had a turn 1 kill with this deck, Tin Fins, but he didn't quite get that. He barely whiffed, was able to get the kill on turn 2, and from Twitter, C. Dubious asks, why is this deck named Tin Fins? Well, if you look at the art on Gristlebrand, you can get a small clue. So basically, there is your answer right there.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can get that art up a little bit later.
And you see both players shuffling up for the next game, looking pretty conversational, pretty happy. Both of these decks very fast. I would give the advantage to Tin Fins in this third game, I think. Even with Ben on the play, the show and tells are just a very risky prospect with Caleb having his own Gristlebrands and Emrakuls. And players getting ready to see their opening hands.
Ben Porter on the play. It matters a lot that he is on the play. Ben Porter is fully capable of assembling a potential turn 1 win himself. So Caleb Durward, even though he has a ton of discard to be able to interact with Ben Porter, he has to have a turn first before that actually will work.
Yeah, so we'll see how fast Ben is able to come out of the gates. Sneak attack being a much better option than show and tell in this matchup. And we're going to see a Volcanic Island from Ben, an Underground Sea from Caleb, leading off with a Dark Ritual.
Dark Ritual is one of the scariest cards that Magic has ever printed. You can see Gristlebrand there. This is the win condition typically for the Tin Fins deck, and you can see that the art kind of created this joke amongst the people that were building this deck. I am sorry to tell you, I do not know who the original designer of this is, and sometimes it's hard to make that judgment about who is the person that made a deck when you're talking about the modern day of Magic.
Yeah, lots of groups building decks and a hive mind, and all that really comes into play. We see Dark Ritual, Entomb, Gristlebrand. So as opposed to targeting himself with a discard spell, this time he just uses Entomb to get that right in the graveyard.
Goes for it.
We see Shallow Grave again.
Is this a turn 1? Is this a turn 1 again?
Maybe Caleb wasn't kidding. I mean, we're at 66 point, all that right now, but should ask Caleb afterwards what he still has to say about that 80%.
Let's see if he can not whiff this time.
We're going to see 21 cards, I believe, again drawn by Gristlebrand. And we'll see if Caleb has to pass the turn. I see a Lotus Petal. I think I see a Children of Corliss in there as well. And a Chrome Mox, removing Gristlebrand. Lotus Petal. And yeah, I can't see this game going another turn with that Children of Corliss in Caleb's hand. You see Dark Ritual. Children gets cast by that Lotus Petal, producing white mana. It's going to allow Caleb to draw another 21 cards if he chooses to. And just looking for that Tendrils.
There's a quick question from the internets. The question is, in game 2, how do you entomb an Emrakul and shallow grave it without it reshuffling? Here's how you do it. You entomb the Emrakul hits the graveyard, the triggered ability goes on the stack, shallow grave is an instant, so you can respond to that triggered ability, thus getting the Emrakul from the graveyard. So, to answer your question, Zephyr Blaze, it's called instants.
Yep, so the difference in wording between something like Emrakul and something like, I believe, Progenitus, if the card says, you know, instead, then it's a replacement effect and it doesn't trigger, it just happens. Emrakul says, you know, when it hits the graveyard, and because it says when, you know, it gets there, this trigger goes on the stack, and the reshuffling doesn't happen until the trigger's done. You can respond to your own trigger there. So we see another Chrome Mox, another Lotus Petal going through the motions. It's really just a question of whether or not Caleb finds that Tendrils of Agony. It may be in a part of his deck that the drawing in multiples of 7 doesn't allow him to find.
There is an element to Caleb's deck which is, I'll call, imprecise. It clearly can do some really powerful things here, but one of the elements that is a little frightening, and then we see the Child come back, it's going to be many more cards for Caleb. Now remember, Child doesn't care that it healed you that life. If you've drawn, let's say, 14 cards, lost 14 life, use the first Child, then draw 14 more, let's say, for the sake of argument, then use a second Child, that second Child only knows that you've lost 28 life this turn. So it'll give you 28 life.
So you see Caleb on the screen here up to 48. We're going to see an Emrakul. Actually, with Emrakul, I think this might just be able to go infinite.
That's very interesting, right? He should be, you are correct.
So,
the Emrakul maybe does let him go infinite. You see, like I said, I've only heard this deck described. I've never watched it.
Yeah, taking care of that problem, he can use the Lotus Petals to get them into the graveyard, make his deck whatever size he wants it to be, go infinite using that Emrakul and cards like Entomb, draw however many cards, cast however many spells, only needs to 1 Tendrils of Agony, because he makes his deck a size that's a multiple of 7. Yeah, really impressive here. Looks like he may have 1 card left, but it's not going to be the Tendrils and the Emrakul, so I think he's probably still safe.
You know what? I think I have a new favorite deck in Legacy.
Using Emrakul, Gristlebrand, and Children of Corliss to draw your deck an infinite number of times. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Oh, this is awesome.
And more Dark Rituals being cast. Lotus Petal. I think Caleb is just putting 9 spells on the table, however many he needs to show that Tendrils is lethal, unless it is the last card in his deck. But I think I saw it there when he was just flipping through those cards, so we'll see. Caleb stacking all of his mana up. I have no idea how much mana he has access to.
I'm going to say 37 trillion.
Yeah, as you were saying yesterday, enough. You know, probably enough mana to do whatever he really wants. Looks like he's thinking about, yeah, goes ahead and casts that Emrakul. Okay, that's another way to win.
Time walk. I'm going to tell you, I have a hard cast Emrakul more times than most people I know, and it is the funnest. And Ben Porter extends the hand. That is pretty amazing. What magic. That is good times. I would like to put a shout out to Michael Bolgardus and @mini, we'll say Leets1337S. And I don't know if Michael is correct, but apparently Tin Fins is from the MTG The Source forums. And he is giving credit to Richard Cheese, and it was discussed in early June. I have not vetted that claim yet. I don't know if it's true, but I am going to, for the sake of argument, trust Michael Bogardus that is the case. So if that is the case, MTG The Source, Richard Cheese, and now Caleb Durward playing this Tin Fins deck to such an extraordinary pair of quasi-turn 1 kills.